Service Committee meeting here at the Robert E. Jones Municipal Building, Tuesday, April 25th, 2023. It's a little after 6, so we're going to get started. Roll call, please.
Alderman Sherry Pickering. Ethan Byrd.
Present.
Eve Ludwig.
Present.
Tricia Teague. Present. Robert Williams.
Present.
Darren York. Chairman Rick Streebing.
Here.
5 present.
Just to let you know that Miss Pickering has got family in from out of town. That's the reason why she's not here this evening. So.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. York's daughter had an appointment.
All right, puts us to item number 2, approval of the minutes for 3/28 of 23. I'll need a motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any questions on the approval of the minutes? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 3 is approval of the agenda. I'll need a motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on the agenda in front of us this evening? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The ayes have it. Puts us to item number 4, audience comments.
Has everyone had a chance to complete a yellow audience comment card who would like to speak this evening?
Wow.
Okay, if not, they're on the table across from the elevator. If you would like to speak, please bring them to me. When I call your name, please come to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. First, Mayor Williams would like to share something.
I imagine, I suspect I know why a lot of you are here this evening. One thing that I would ask for the sake of time is that if the person before you has mentioned all of the points that you already agreed to, that you would simply state that I support what Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so said, rather than having people coming up and saying the same thing over and over and over again. The other thing that I ask is for decorum and civility. Listen, we are always Danville proud, even when we disagree on things. So I want us to move forward with a spirit of respect and humility. There are some things that most of us agree on many things, but there are some things that we're going to disagree on, and that's okay. And everyone has absolutely the right to fight for what they believe in. I respect, and the city respects that right for you to fight what you believe in. But we would ask you that you please do so respectfully and peacefully.
First, I have Susan Wallen of rural Danville.
Hello. Concerning the abortion clinic, we know what the culture says today. This pregnancy will interfere with my life. Just do whatever's most convenient. Are babies always convenient? Is abortion convenient for the baby? Number 2, culture says it's not a baby. What is it then if it's not a baby? And why do you have to kill it? Number 3, it's a woman's choice. It's her body. Yes, she had a choice to have sex and a choice to use birth control. But when it involves another life, it should not be her choice. Number 4, the culture says abortion is reproductive health. No, reproductive health is going to an obstetrician or a gynecologist who does an examination of the female body and the reproductive organs. Abortions aren't health for anyone, and they are death for babies. It's these kinds of opinions that have opened the way in our culture to a flood of evil. Here is what God says. Isaiah chapter 59. Your iniquities have built walls between you and God. Your sins have hidden his face from you. Your hands are stained with blood. Your lips speak lies. No one calls for justice. Their feet run to evil and violence. They are swift to shed innocent blood. Ruin and destruction lie in their wake. God sees, God hears. He hates evil. He hates the shedding of innocent blood. He cannot bless a city involved with these things. We already have issues with drugs, crime, and violence. We must, in whatever way we can, prevent this abortion clinic from coming to our city. God help us. Thank you.
Next, I have David Wallen of rural Danville.
If I may have a replica, maybe 10 to 12 weeks old. You don't mind passing it around. My sign says, "Choose Jesus, choose life," because he's the way, the truth, and the life. I only have two quick comments. One is that as I look around this room, I see something we all have in common. We were all former fetuses. And the other is, as you look at this replica of a child in the womb, you can see clearly that that child is not another body part of the mom. It's not a body part. It's not her body. It's a totally different body. Thank you for listening. Why don't I just pass this?
Tim Cahill of Danville.
I didn't want to say too much, just that I ask everyone here to vote for the ordinance. I think it's what's best for all of us, all of our souls, all of our community, all of Danville. I think the more evil we can keep out, the better. The more harm we can keep out, the better. I know everyone here cares about our community. This is something that would be hard for me to stomach, knowing that this is happening in our community. Thank you.
Bradley McCarty of Danville.
I too want to agree with Mr. Cahill and say that I would encourage you to vote to approve the addition of Chapter 142 to Danville Code and Ordinances.
Pastor Dave Anderson of Danville.
I've pastored a lot of years, a lot of folks through the years. A couple I remember in particular through the years. One was a lady named Sherry. And when I preached her funeral, I called her God's masterpiece. She had Down syndrome, and by the world standards, she couldn't do anything, really even take care of herself. But Sherry was one of the most amazing people I've ever met. She would sit in our congregation and she would praise the Lord and she would honor God, and she wanted to be my choir secretary, so she was. And it's people like that that help you to know that God has a purpose for every single person. So we can remember a lot of mumbo jumbo tonight, but we can also remember people that God put on the face of this earth for a reason. I rise in support of this ordinance.
Doug Knapp of Danville.
Good evening. Thank you for taking time to hear us this evening. I also rise in relevance to the proposed ordinance relative to the abortion clinic. I'm from Danville. I've lived here all my life. I have children here. I have a business here, and I'm also a pastor. And so I want to say that there's three people involved every time there's an abortion: the mom, the dad, and obviously the child. And sometimes they get lost. Two of these people get lost in the process. I just want to remind every one of us today that Danville is a beautiful city. It has its problems. And we probably wouldn't be here today if the state of Indiana hadn't passed certain laws that restrict the abortions and the abortion business in Indiana. And it's because of business, not because of need. It's because of business that we're getting this kind of interest in our city, because we're just so close to the border. That's why we're even talking today. If that hadn't happened, we probably wouldn't be sitting here today and inviting you to consider this ordinance. So the people in the state of Indiana has made a decision about what they feel about abortion. And now we're going to get, unless we make this decision, we're going to have more and more opportunities to have abortion clinics in our area. Not only do I think this is a right thing for the city, I also think that even the county should consider this, if anyone here has an interest in that. It's not just about the city of Danville, but it's about who we represent and how we want to be represented in the future. I don't want to be a city known because of the abortion clinics that are available here. So I do rise in agreement with this ordinance, and I ask that you would support it as well. Thank you for your time, and thank you for all that you do.
Pastor Randy Downing of Danville.
Thank you very much for all that you do and for being willing to listen to us tonight. I'm always praying for each and every person on the city council that the Lord keeps you strong and healthy and gives you wisdom in every decision that you make. I too concur with everything that Pastor Knapp has said, in that I stand for this ordinance to pass. I've taken the opportunity to write down the references of what I'm going to talk about for the next 2 minutes to you, so that you have the reference points and make sure that nothing I say is taken out of context. And so I'll pass some on each side. They're coming around, so there's one for you right there. If you can just pass those around, that would be awesome for us. I'm here tonight, and I want you, first of all, to understand that things aren't always the way they appear on the outside. And that's what's going on with this abortion clinic. This abortion clinic is not what it appears to be on the outside, of being in support of the rights and being in support of what may be needing to happen for people to have better lives. There are some things that are important to understand about an abortion clinic that are very important. The first thing is, what does this ordinance do to protect a woman's health? Well, on page 3, letters D, E, and F, it discusses that no hospital will be banned from performing life-saving help to a woman who is having problems with her pregnancy. Also, nothing is going to be against the First Amendment of free speech, and also nothing is going to penalize the person who feels like they need an abortion. And the last part of that, page 3, is under no circumstance will the mother of the unborn child be charged or penalized. I believe that this ordinance will help protect the mental health of women by lowering the suicide and suicide rates. I've given several references to that in the notes that you have there. But the big thing to understand is that a study was done in 1997, and death certificates were compared to medical records, and it was found that the annual suicide rate was 160% higher among women who had abortions than women that did not have abortions. This is one of the things that we don't get to hear very often about abortions, but yet it is one of the effects that would come to our city. The annual suicide rate of women who aborted, 7.8%, and women who delivered their baby, only 3%. Is a woman's right to choose hindered by this ordinance? A woman's right to choose is not hindered by this ordinance. Just like
Pastor Downing, I do apologize, but your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. You have the notes there that you can go on with, and I hope that we can vote yes for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Miles Clark of Danville.
Thank you. Miles Clark, I'm the lead pastor at Crossroads Christian Church. And I echo the same sentiments and thoughts. And belief that have been shared by our other pastors as well as community members in favor of this ordinance. I'm particularly consider some words that Pastor Dave shared, and that is the aftermath. There's not a minister here, a pastor here, who has not dealt with what happens to a woman or a male, because it's interesting that Dave mentioned men. Oftentimes men are, they suffer in silence when they find that a girlfriend or a wife has had an abortion. And so I just simply want to encourage you, because of having to deal with that aftermath and the counsel, the hurt and pain that comes with it, to consider this ordinance. And also that the fact that it is not something that would look good here in Danville. I agree. My wife and daughter and I moved to Danville in 1999. We've been here for the past 24 years, and we plan to retire here in this community, enjoy my grandchildren. And so it's a beautiful community. I know we have our issues and our problems, and I would just simply encourage you to consider this ordinance, that we don't bring just another blemish here, but rather decide to push this ordinance on to the full council. Thank you.
Bill Cahill of Danville.
Thank you. I just want to voice my support for all the pro-life people who have talked about the issue so far, and I agree with everything that's been said. I am for the sanctity of life. I think that everybody, should be, and the unborn is a part of that. One other point that I wanted to make was that, the northern part of Illinois, is very liberal. They control basically the whole state. That doesn't mean that, the God-fearing, more conservative people south of there should have to go along with everything that they prescribe. And there's no doubt that, this abortion clinic, if it doesn't get here, it may go somewhere else, or there's going to be abortions available. I understand that, but we can make a statement and not have that here in this community. Just like an analogy is that if there was immoral things going on next door, that doesn't mean you let them happen in your house too. And I think that's a good point to make, that we need to stand up for life. Thank you.
Ask Matthews of Danville.
My name is Jason Matthews, and over the course of a couple decades, I've employed hundreds of people in this town, and I've fed thousands. I've helped food banks and every after-school sports program that I can think of. Broke bread with homeless, walked low-income housing, passing out gifts to children all over this county, mostly in this city. That's how you help people, by improving their situations with actions, not by taking rights away you disagree with. You don't have to like women's health care, but in the state of Illinois, women's rights are protected from your opinion and your religious beliefs. You should read Illinois' Reproductive Health Act. It's not up for debate. Illinois' law protects reproductive rights. You can get married at 16 years old at the courthouse down the street, a block away. I haven't looked at any of the data, but I'm pretty sure most of this girl's getting married down there. Why hasn't anybody proposed an ordinance to stop children from getting married? In Texas, under the age of 16, all it needs is a judge's approval. Dickinson preteens in Texas are legally getting married around 12. That needs attention, not women's rights in Illinois. You cannot find anyone in Illinois to help you with this, so you brought someone from Texas, where there are 6,000 children waiting to be adopted but here to stop women's health care in Illinois. You're not protecting children. You're forcing births with zero consideration to the individual, ready to violate women's rights over your beliefs. Dickerson stated working with 3 different communities right now with the same problem. Women's health care is not a problem. Stopping women is the problem. He also stated preserve morals. Whose morals? Not the person seeking health care. I say go back to Texas and work on getting the 6,000 children a family and stop the children from being married. As for the elected leaders of this community who supported this idea, you should be ashamed. You know this is illegal and this is not going to work. Watch. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Ben Cahill of Danville.
My name's Ben Cahill. I've lived here nearly my whole life. I'm asking the City Council to support the ordinance. The residents of Danville do not want this. The majority of us do not want this. As City Council members, you have a grave duty before God and man to uphold the moral order in this community, to follow your conscience, and to do the right thing in difficult situations. I ask that you not be scared of the ACLU, not be scared of those who are going to threaten to sue the city. I ask you to be courageous in the face of evil and do the right thing. Thank you.
April Crawley.
Hello, everyone. My name's April. I've lived in this community my whole life. I want you to also support the ordinance to get rid of the abortion clinic. It is our duty to protect our weakest members in society, which are the unborn who do not have a voice for themselves. Thank you.
Chandra White of Chicago.
Good evening. My name is Chandra White, and I'm here representing the ACLU. As longtime defenders of reproductive rights in the state of Illinois, the ACLU calls on you to reject the proposed ordinance that we've been discussing tonight. Such an ordinance would be unlawful and unenforceable in the state of Illinois. It is without question that Illinois law protects reproductive rights, including the right to obtain an abortion within the state. The city of Danville is not above the law. Attempts to impose restrictions on access to reproductive health care in Danville will do nothing other than expose the city to significant legal liability and fees. Abortion is a fundamental right in Illinois. It's protected both by the Illinois Constitution and the Illinois Reproductive Health Act, which is a statute that was enacted a couple of years ago. The Reproductive Health Act, which I'm going to call the RHA, plainly states that every individual has a fundamental right to make autonomous decisions about their own reproductive health, including the fundamental right to use or refuse reproductive health care. It also says that every individual who becomes pregnant and has a fundamental right to continue that pregnancy. They also have a right to give birth. They also have a right to have an abortion and to make that decision autonomously about how to exercise that right. The Reproductive Health Act also states clearly that a fertilized egg, embryo, or fetus does not have independent rights in the state of Illinois. The RHA prohibits the city of Danville from restricting or interfering with the exercise of these fundamental rights. The ordinance violates the RHA by regulating the provision of reproductive health care in a way that is not narrowly tailored to protect a compelling city interest, as the RHA says it should. The RHA says that it needs to be consistent with accepted standards of clinical practice, evidence-based, and narrowly tailored for the limited purpose of protecting the health of people seeking such care, and in a manner that least restricts a person's autonomous decision-making. Prohibiting the receipt of medications or instruments that can be used for abortions that are protected under state law and performed consistent with accepted standards of clinical practice falls short of the standard under the law. There can also be no doubt that the RHA does apply to Danville's ordinance. By its plain terms, the RHA preempts any local ordinance that attempts to restrict a person's ability to freely exercise their fundamental rights within the municipal boundaries. The act says that a unit of local government may not regulate an individual's ability to freely exercise the fundamental rights set forth in the act in a manner more restricted than those set forth in the act.
Ms. White, your time has concluded.
I understand. Thank you. I believe you're all in receipt of the remainder of my comments.
Thank you.
Barrett's of Danville.
My name is Dr. Wes Bieritz. I have been in the Danville for 58 years and practiced veterinary medicine for a long time, as you probably well know. And I'm here today to back what this lady just said, that I think that women should have another choice. You know, we can all argue just how or why or if a pregnancy should or should not have happened, but it happens. There may be a mistake, it may be the result of bad birth control, but it happens, and 1 million abortions will take place in our country this year. 1 million. Why not give them the opportunity at that stage to have an alternative to carrying that baby, and at the beginning of their pregnancy to seek and to apply medications and professional abortions to make this situation a choice. I think that you folks here today that are voting on this amendment can see and will vote correctly to reject this amendment as a further statement about the rights of women in our community. Thank you.
Greg Taylor of Danville.
Good evening, and I'd like to first thank all of you for serving our city. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for all that you do. I have a simple message, and that is that every life matters. And I believe that a majority of the people that are here tonight and a majority of the people that live in our community believe that every life matters. Years ago, Staples had those commercials with the easy button. And the pro-abortion lobby has tried to convince us that abortion is an easy button issue. Just punch the easy button, get the abortion, everything is great. And yet I echo what Pastor Dave and others have shared. I've sat with church members in their 60s and their 70s that have lived for 4 decades in regret for a decision that they made. Danville doesn't need this. Danville is a community that has enough problems as it is right now. Planned Parenthood of Indiana wants to come, and they want to use our community, and that is not good for Danville, Illinois. My heart is warm to look in the back and see all the young people that are gathered here tonight with T-shirts and sweatshirts that say they are the pro-life generation, and the pro-life generation is rising up. And it's my prayer that you will, seek what you think the right decision is, but I am encouraging you to support this ordinance that every life matters. One final thing, and then I'll be done. I am here today because my birth mother, who I never met, I probably will not meet this side of eternity, gave me the gift of life. And I'm asking that you strongly consider supporting this ordinance. Thank you.
Diana Brenneman of Danville.
First of all, I would like to state my stance on abortion. It is not something that I would have ever chosen for myself, but I have no right to tell other people how to conduct their lives. I don't know what goes on in their lives. And you look at 2 cases that we've seen recently where a 10-year-old girl in Ohio was raped, became pregnant, and had to leave Ohio to have an abortion. Would any of you want your 10-year-old daughter to have to carry a baby after she had been raped? I wouldn't. There was also a woman in Texas whose doctor informed her that her child would probably only live a couple of hours. Its brain and its skull had not developed. She was not able to have an abortion in the state that she lives in and could not afford to go anywhere else. So, and I agree that I don't believe this ordinance is going to supersede state laws. So, but that's my stance on abortion, so.
Jermaine Light of Danville.
Jermaine Light, rural Danville. And this is an issue that affects not only the entire county, the entire state, nearby states. It's a women's issue. It's a women's rights issue. Now, the ACLU, I'm sorry, representative that just spoke a few times back, talked about the legalities of this so well. So I was just going to say that I definitely back her on those. We don't want to be sued. We don't want a big, expensive lawsuit, and we would lose. So the other thing, though, is that there is also the question of, even if you did decide to pass this, and I hope you don't, but if you're going to allow for emergency because of health questions of the mother, if the ordinance is going to allow for abortions for that, then why are you wanting to make the abortion pill illegal for delivery in Danville? That doesn't seem like that goes together. The other thing is that there are plenty of reasons that a woman's life might be threatened. And not only is it wrong to make a young child or even an adult woman carry a rape, be a victim of a rape and then carry a child when she doesn't want that rapist's child. And certainly not if she's a young child herself. But so because of incest or rape, those ought to be automatic, and they might not necessarily be, threatening the life of the mother, but that's an important consideration. And then there's all kinds of things. I think some things were already mentioned, like ectopic pregnancies, preeclampsia. The baby can die for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes the placenta becomes unattached or begins to become unattached, and the mother begins hemorrhaging, and that has to be stopped. And this abortion pill can be a big help with that. Another thing to consider here too is that the abortion pill is used to treat other conditions, not just as an abortion pill, but it also helps with miscarriages, with the hemorrhaging I was talking about, with endometriosis and other things. I'm not a doctor, but these are things I've read about. So these are some of the reasons that I think it's important that the mother gets to live. The mother should come first. And I think you need to think about her life. If you're a true pro-lifer, you need to think about the mother and her life and her choice. And you don't understand what it's like to be her and walk in her shoes unless you're actually walking in her shoes, and you're not. She gets to make this choice. Illinois law guarantees that. Let's go with that. Thank you.
Terry Lake of Danville.
Hello, I'm Terry Lake, longtime resident of Danville since around 1969. My sister was raped at age 13. She weighed 44 pounds. She was anemic and dealing with a host of issues. And her doctor told her, basically told my mother, that there would be no chance of a viable pregnancy and that my sister would surely die before the baby could ever become viable. And so my mother and her two sisters in that era had to drive her to Michigan to receive a safe and legal abortion. My mother chose life, along with the agreement of her two sisters and my father, the life of my sister, not her rapist baby. And we should be free to make those choices as is concerned for each family. It should not be our government's policies to restrict or interfere with the personal moral choices that are based on individual circumstances and individual Christian beliefs. When I grew up, our family was divided. Part of our family was the pro-life Bible thumpers. Part of our family believed that life began at breath, that in with your first breath you drawed your Christendom soul, and out with your last it would go. Part of my family believed that life began at the quickening, when the baby began to kick and move about. But we all respected each other's beliefs and allowed that which was necessary for each family to procreate and bring forth the children that they chose when they believed their women's bodies were able to do so. My father had 6 kids. Those 6 kids proceeded to have 20 kids. Those 20 kids have proceeded to have 50. There have been numerous abortions in our family, of which few of us speak about. My mother and father forbid us to speak of my sister's abortion until they're both dead now. And I asked my sister if it was okay, and she said yes, because it saved her life. Abortions save lives. In most circumstances, it's none of your business what portion of her life it's saving, but it's her life that matters, and not somebody else's choice. Further, to restrict mifepristone and misoprostol, as Jermaine was mentioning, is used in a whole host. I've got 14 different ones listed here, medical procedures that are not abortion. And mifepristone and misoprostol has been approved in 50 of our peer nations. So to try to say that they are not safe is an absolute lie. It's one of the safest ways for a woman to eliminate a miscarriage or an unwanted or an unviable pregnancy.
Blake, your time has concluded.
Pro-life is a lie. You don't care if women die.
Thank you.
Vince Coors of Danville.
My name is Vince Coors. I've been in Danville 50-some years, seems like. I am for this legislation. I think it's needed. Someone said 1 million babies are going to be aborted this year. We put people in jail for murder. How is an abortion any different? We've heard talk about the law in Chicago and Springfield. We see references to federal law. The last time I checked, federal law overcame state law. That's right. If people in Chicago want to have abortions, I suppose they can go have abortions. They can't tell the rest of us we should have abortions. The law that we ought to be talking about is God's law. Thou shalt not kill.
Lynn McClendon of Danville.
We've heard several repeated themes from the anti-ordinance people, prominent among them that this would be unlawful. Unlawful under State of Illinois law, Reproductive Health Act, etc. These people are not telling you there is, under U.S. law, something called the Supremacy Clause. This ordinance language has been, I think, carefully crafted, and it appeals for its authority to U.S. law. And therefore, the Supremacy Clause dominates any Illinois statute to the contrary. Another recurring theme is we've heard from several speakers women's health and rights. Beware of slippery language. Women's health. A previous speaker laid out very well, I think, that this is not an issue of women's health. It may be, arguably, a question about a woman's right, but legally, it is not a right. Legally. Beware of slippery language. It has also been mentioned by several, about 1 million abortions will occur each year. Let me suggest they are disproportionately black people. Disproportionately. We've heard much in the last few years about people supporting BLM, Black Lives Matter. Don't you find something a little bit out of kilter, contradictory between supporting BLM and supporting killing black fetuses? I think the two do not go together. This is not an easy decision in front of you. Life isn't easy. It may be tempting as an elected representative, answerable to your friends and neighbors and voters. It may be tempting to take the easy decision. Don't. It's not often that the city council has the obligation and the responsibility to act on a matter affecting life or death. Choose life.
Timothy Horner of Danville.
Timothy Horner, I'm a physician that's practiced here in Danville for almost 30 years. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I would like to say that I am in support of the ordinance to oppose the clinic. With regard to a child, I view an unborn child as a life. I have taken part in numerous C-sections, and before the breath occurred, the baby was moving and quite alive. According to the medical field and the medical profession, it is my job to preserve life. And then that's what I intend to do, and that's what I will continue to do. I support women's health. I support it vehemently. I do not support the death of children, though. So to say I support women's health does not mean that I am opposed to child's living. And so I stand in that position. From a moral perspective, I would hope that we would be able to pull up the morality of our community and the laws that we abide by. I agree the fact that our country has supremacy laws, as has been previously brought out. I respect that. It's also our duty as community members of Danville to support good laws, right laws. With the knowledge that we have a state right next to us that has laws that go down a different line, they're obviously basing their decision on a morality too. And the question is, which morality is based on sound morality? And so I support it on the basis of what should be obvious to all of us. I would like to end with the words of Ronald Reagan, who says, "I have noticed that everyone who is for abortion has already been born." Thank you.
Paul Fuller of rural Danville.
Good evening. Pastor Paul Fuller from Edgewood Church, representing our congregation. Their voice that's resoundingly has said that this ordinance should go forward because we want to support life. I'm also here representing the historic view of the Christian church for almost 2,000 years. As early as the Didache, it recorded that abortion was wrong. Not to mention that God says it's wrong to murder. I just echo everything that these men have said here tonight. There's really not a whole lot I would add other than what God has said. God says in Isaiah 5:20, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter." Please vote in support of that ordinance.
Josh Hayes.
Good evening. Just I want to reiterate something that was said before, which is that the federal law is the supreme law of the land. Nobody's asking the city council to violate the law, and such a supposition seems to be to strain credibility or it's just ridiculous. To say that the city is going to uphold federal law seems to be a very reasonable ordinance for the city to make. And as the Supreme Court of the United States has recently reinforced that, in fact, these laws are enforced now in the nation, there is really nothing, that would keep this city from passing this ordinance that I can see. And it's not like the passage of this ordinance prevents women from choosing to, pursue their rights in very near locations, unfortunately, but I think it's an opportunity for us to say, this is against federal law and not in our community.
Cheryl Carlson of Danville.
Good evening. This notion of an ordinance is beyond the reach and authority of this council to impose on Danville citizens. I appreciate the ACLU giving clear legal standing. If women and children's health were truly the goal, this council would have taken action to return OB services to OSF a long time ago. Delay in care and transportation to another county is a real and present danger to the unborn children and their mothers. It only takes 30 minutes for a placental abruption or escalation to eclampsia to cause a fatal outcome for an infant that is unborn. If you really want to save children, you make sure that the hospital has OB services now. If this were to be the sanctuary issue were to be a real issue, it should be brought forward by women and women only. Men have no standing in the health and well-being of a woman. We are not second-class citizens. If you persist in this wrong-headed notion, perhaps all erectile dysfunction drugs should be banned for use, sale, and distribution in this town, because without that drug, pregnancies don't happen. Thank you.
Brenda Brown of Danville.
If I may, before we have Alderwoman Brown come, just so that the community will know, we have been working hard to bring back OB/GYN services and delivery services to the hospital. We're in fact doing everything we can. We've met with the county and private foundations as well to consider alternative funding sources to help even recruit physicians. So we are working on that. And also, as far as women having a say, 3 of the 4 originators of this bill are actually women. So that's something to consider.
Mayor Williams, Chairperson Streebing, Committee of the Public Service, all the department heads, everybody over there. I drove up in here tonight. I'm just going to put a little different twist on this for everyone tonight. I saw all these cars. I said, people really care about Danville. Regardless of what you're here for, you care about Danville. So that was just a joy to see tonight. So thank you all for coming out. Whether you're for this addition to Chapter 142 or you're not for it, at least you came out to show what you feel, your concerns for this community, and I applaud you for it. I wish you could be here for all the council meetings so there wouldn't be all these misunderstandings. To this committee, you guys have a job on your hands tonight. And to our corporate counsel, I was here one night when he did express what the laws of the state of Illinois say, regardless of the federal supremacy of this. It did say that each state could make their own decisions on this. The state of Illinois says that abortion is legal. Now, I am a pro-lifer. I'm anti-abortion. I do not believe in it. I think it's a selfish thing to do to your body and to your child. However, this addition to Chapter 142 is going to open up a can of worms for the city of Danville, for litigation, for suits. And I'm not trying to compare a life of abortion or not a life of abortion to money. That certainly isn't what I'm asking or trying to explain. But it will come if this full council, when it's in session next week, votes to approve the addition of Chapter 142. Now, with that, there's money involved that the city will have to pay out. And whether we like it or not, it may come back to the citizens for that, because there could be increase in property taxes, a whole lot of other things, I don't know. We have new people coming to the council. We're going to put them in a situation that is going to make it difficult to make a decision. I guess what I'm trying to say, I said all that to say this, and I'm not for anyone or against anyone or what you have said, whether pro-abortion or not to choose life. But to send this to the council would be the correct thing to do so we can get the feel of the full council. And so go ahead, take it to the full council. But I do plead that approving the addition of Chapter 142 requiring compliance with federal abortion law does not pass.
Thank you, Alderwoman.
Even though I am pro-life, this is going to bring a problem for the city. I do ask that this city
Alderwoman, I'm sorry, your time has concluded.
I'm
Thank
concluding. This city, we all have a lot of ministry. Let's pray. Pray that this institution does not come here.
Kathleen Orrington of Danville.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Orrington, and I have been a citizen of Danville for about 26 years. I have been a registered nurse for 44 years. I've spent probably half of my nursing career in the hospitals doing bedside nursing and med-surg type nursing, and then the other half in the community doing mental health and working with women who are high-risk pregnancies. So in those years, I worked a lot with women in Danville who were either they lived everywhere. They lived in rural areas, they lived all over the city, they lived in the housing projects, and I had a large number of cases that I would have to go and visit regularly and have certain things that they had to do, and I would check up on them all the time and go with some of them to their OB appointments. I know that I had countless numbers of women who were very upset because abortions were not an option in this town. There were many women who had drug addictions in their past history, had children already, were pregnant and did not want to be pregnant, and they actually cried at night knowing that they were going to have another child, and they did not plan to keep that child. I think that I'm speaking here now for the marginalized people that you will never see in a council meeting. You'll never see them come here. And as far as I'm concerned, I think that we do have in the Constitution a division between laws and religion. Not everyone is extremely religious, and not everyone has the Christian religion that they base their life on. It's very easy to walk up here and say that I'm a member of such and such church, or I'm a minister, and then give a little anecdote about someone who had an abortion, and to say something like 160% of the women who commit suicide had an abortion and they were very sorry. Well, I can tell you, I know a lot of women who would have given an arm or a leg to be able to have an abortion. This abortion clinic that is supposed to be coming here will be providing a service women in this community have never been able to have. And I think that a lot of people are very thick-headed, especially males, about no abortions. Every woman, I don't care if she's 10 years old, knows what is best for herself and what is best for her body. And it is, to me, absolutely insane that especially males would walk up here and say, you should never be allowed to have an abortion. When each of you who say that, and all of you church members, have taken some foster children into your home, or volunteered repeatedly signed up to be a foster parent, whether it's, just on a respite basis or whatever, then you have room to talk. But until then, shut the hell up. I was a foster child. I watched my 5 siblings go down the tubes really fast. Many of them died way before they should have. They're all dead now because of this society and the way we treat people. All the stigmas, all the problems, they're all still there. We need to be dealing with that, and we need to be dealing with the foster kids, the kids that are here now. And get the hell out of a woman's very, very personal business. It is not
Mrs. Orrington, your
going
time
to,
has concluded.
I'll conclude that it is not going to affect you in any way, shape, or form. What happens when a woman decides she cannot carry a fetus?
Ed Harkey of Sydney, Illinois.
Good evening. My name is Ted Harkey. I live in rural Sydney. I'm in Danville a lot. I love this town. It's a wonderful place. And when I heard what was coming to Danville, I wanted to set out the alarm that after hearing a lot of people talk tonight, there's a lot of fear and worry about a lawsuit. The folks that have brought this ordinance to you have promised legal assistance. The attorney's name was Jonathan Mitchell. They're a well-funded group of people that are ready to defend our city if the lawsuit was to be presented to you. The other thing I wanted to say is about being a man. I'm looked upon as a person to come forth and tell the truth, to stop injustice, and I feel like as a man, it's my responsibility to protect all men and all women, and be as a protector. I believe in personal rights and property rights. And I want to tell you what my biggest fear is. I hope to get to heaven, and when I get there, I think that at the gates of heaven, whoever I meet, whether it's Jesus or St. Peter or my grandmother, they're going to say, Ted, you did a good job. You're a good surveyor, you're a good father, you're a good man. But why don't you do more to stop abortion? That's my biggest fear. And I hope that this council will forward this to the full city council to give us the option and the thought to protect the lives of the unborn, who are the most vulnerable people among us. Thank you very much, and good luck.
I would like to make one note because several people have brought it up. The way the City of Danville Committee works, they are simply advisory in nature. So they either recommend an ordinance or a resolution, or they do not recommend. But either way, it does go to the full City Council for consideration.
Have anybody else wants to speak this evening?
I would like to. Can I?
Yes, ma'am.
I probably.
Could you give us your name, please?
My name is Pat Phillips, and I was thinking that I was going to speak tonight, and then I thought, no, maybe not. I've never been here to anything like this before. But I have had an abortion, and I was in my 20s when I had it. And I was in a clinic that was very clean. There wasn't anything wrong with where I went, and I even had people that loved me that allowed me to be able to go, because I would have never been able on my own. And it was a decision I made because of a position I had gotten myself in, because of a bad marriage at the time, and I had slept with someone, and I got pregnant. I already had 3 children. I had the abortion because I didn't want to bring a child into a relationship where the father was already not acknowledging his own 3 children. I wish to this day I had never murdered my child. That's exactly what it is. If we make wrong decisions, but we do not have to take life because we make a bad decision. Adoption is much better than murder. And I can tell you that when they shot my stomach with the acid that burned my baby, I passed out. When I woke up, I didn't know that I'd even passed out. And I could have died, and they never checked on me or anything. And it was a prominent one in Peoria, Illinois. And to this day, and I passed my baby in a stool. It is not pretty, and it is life that we are taking. And then you have the situation that I deal with every day on a school bus. I pray over children every day that their parents need to get involved with what is going on in their life, and yet they stand in my face and they cuss me out. They tell me that I have no right to tell them anything because they have all these rights, and yet I'm being abused emotionally because nobody can do anything about it, because the school's afraid to get the parents involved because the parents might say this or do that or get a lawyer, whatever. When are we going to start making people responsible for what we do, for our mistakes? It is time for us to start making people, again, responsible for taking care of our children. Abortion isn't an answer. If you want to have a baby and if you want to get pregnant and you want to, we all want to be loved. That's not a secret. But we need to be careful with our lives. And that child can be adopted out. There are people that are hungry.
Thank you, ma'am. Please give your name and generally where you live.
Meredith Ellis in Danville. Hi, Ricky. I agree with all you pastors. I do. I despise the grisly business of abortion. I don't believe that I should have one. I should hope to God that none of my children should have one. I do not want my government in the doctor's office with that woman. We don't know what the reality is for that woman. We don't know what she's going through. That's what you guys are here for, to help her. You know? What she has to go through is not for us to decide. We have our own religion. I'm a Christian. You guys are Christians. Maybe she's not. Maybe she doesn't believe what you do. Our government does not belong in that doctor's office. That's all I have to say.
My name is Larry Smith. What you guys are considering is going to rock the status quo. Because you've had abortion for 49 years as much as you want. And it hasn't worked. It has not worked. Let's let the babies be born and deal with the social justice issues and make this nation what it should be. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak this evening?
I didn't fill a card out, but if I could.
Go right ahead.
Again, if you would please give us your name and roughly where you live, the municipality.
My name is James Ford. I pastor a church here in town, but that doesn't got nothing to do with what I'm going to say to you. I was raised in Lafayette, Indiana. And as a teenager in Lafayette, Indiana, we all knew we could come to Danville and get drunk. There was no restriction for us coming here. We also knew of the red light district that was accepted in Danville, and the city did nothing about that. What kind of a remembrance is the next generation going to have about Danville? They stopped the soldiers from coming from Rantoul because of what was going on in Danville. I know that was in the 50s, and we're in a whole different era today than we were then. But that reputation, still with those of us that are old enough to remember, is still what we remember about Danville, Illinois. And I don't want that to be what my kids and grandkids and great-grandkids remember about Danville.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's a good point.
Madam Clerk, do we have anybody else?
No, we do not, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Puts us chairman's comments, and I don't have any for this evening. Puts us to item number 6, approval of payrolls for 4/21 of 23. I'll need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Got a motion and we have a second. Is there any questions on the payrolls? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Williams?
Yes.
York? Pickering? Burt?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague? Yes. Streebing?
Yes.
5 yes.
Yes, thank you. Puts us to item number 7, approval of vouchers payables. We have a special run for 4/24 of 23 and a regular run for 4/25/23. I'll need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Is there any questions on the special run or the regular run? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman York? Pickering? Burt?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Streebing?
Yes.
5 yes.
5 yes, thank you. Puts us to item number 8, city clerk's report. Lisa Munson and her items of information.
I don't have any items this evening to update the committee.
Okay, thank you, dear. Puts us to item number 9, finance. Ashlyn Macy, comptroller. 9A is a resolution authorizing actuarial service with Lauterbach and Amon, LLP. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 9A resolution? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Pickering? Burt?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
York? Streebing?
Yes.
5 yes.
5 yes, thank you. Puts us 9B, items of information. We'll talk about risk management monthly report and the personnel monthly report. Ms. Macy?
Good evening. You should have both of those reports in your packet. Are there any questions on the risk manager or personnel report?
Yes.
Under the liability claims, there was a sewer department claim. This is for a residence, someone's residence, or was this city property?
Yes, so there was an individual who, during a storm, their property had a sewer backup. They put in a claim, claiming it was the city's responsibility, and it was found that we were not responsible, so.
Okay. That's my only question. Thank you.
Okay, I don't have any other updates. The end of the fiscal year is April 30th, so the last business day is this Friday, April 28th. We're just really busy processing a lot of POs. You will have a special run at the city council meeting for today and tomorrow that wasn't in the packet, just checks that needed cut before the end of the fiscal year. But I have no other updates. Thank you.
Much. Puts us item number 10, Aaron Marcotte, Fire Chief, items of information, and we'll go through the monthly status report and Fire Chief staff report. Chief?
Yep. Kind of a busy month for us. Firemen are kind of outdoorsy people, so this was the kind of the opening of all the outdoor training kicking off and everything like that. So we had guys run through. We're mostly through our annual maintenance of items. We can finish up with the SCBA this month. All those things have to be checked out and ran through. That's all been done. May we'll be doing our hose testing all that hose for the fire department. The aerial, we had a couple guys go down and put the final touches on the aerial apparatus. It's on the line now. We're still expecting a late sort of July delivery for that aerial truck that was purchased. All of our recruits that were in academy, all graduated. We even had one of the guys get the top physical fitness award out of the whole academy, which was pretty great, out of 67 so applicants that finished academy. So that's good. The radios that you guys had approved a year and so ago, those got up and running this last month. So we're now using them, kind of working out the bugs of those things now. So those things are up and going. We did have a little setback with engine 4. We believe at the Garden Apartments fire where we had the rescue. It looks like some cast iron metal pieces got sucked up into the pump, similar to like what happened to the grinder, and kind of did some little bit of damage in there. So that was sent off and is being repaired now in I believe, Washington, Illinois. So about $9,000 for the damage there to the inside of the pump. So they basically have screens that prevent that, but they're little cast iron rocks that we believe comes up through the sewer lines that get inside there and just kind of did a number on it. So there's several things in your packet about all the different trainings the guys have done this month. Like I said, May we'll be doing hose testing. We're currently developing our internal budget policies. I hope to have a budget sort of analysis to you guys next month at this time, whatever. So our new recruits, got one more week. I got a couple days here this week to finish up their training. They have one more week over there at the Institute, and then they'll be ours. So we're looking at about a 2-week program when they get back here, and then they'll hopefully be on the street sort of towards the end of May. So, and on shift. So that's all going pretty well. So unless you have any questions,
Any questions for the chief?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Why does everybody look at me? What is the impact of the damage to the engine? First being how, just in terms of our ability to support, fires that might come up between now and the time it gets repaired. And then the second is how long will it take for us to get it back?
It should be back relatively quickly. I believe it's getting repaired now. It's just kind of a parts issue, I guess. Not really much impact. We have reserves for that kind of item, so we just pulled the next one up and is currently operating out of that. So
okay, that's my only question. Yep. Thank you.
Chief, I've got one on the radios because it's been a while since we've done that. With these new radios we got, you have the capability of talking with the police force as well and keeping them abreast?
Yeah, we can listen. We also have police radios on our vehicles that are separate that we can, in a crisis, we can deal with them. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the chief?
Chairman, the supply chain issues.
Oh,
If
okay.
you don't believe
Well,
them, a year and a half ago, we approved
Yeah.
it and we finally
Yeah.
got them, and they're finally installed.
I'm glad we got them. All right, thanks, Chief. Puts us item number 11, Human Relations. Ms. Sandra Finch, Administrator. We got items of information, her monthly status report. Ms.
Good
Finch?
evening, everyone.
Hello.
For the period of March 21st through April 17th, the office handled 22 complaints, in which the new complaints consisted of 1 police complaint, 1 employment complaint, 4 housing complaints, 4 public accommodation complaints. In reference to cases that are still open, handled 3 police complaints, 6 employment complaints, 1 complaint against a city employee, 2 housing complaints.
As usual, a busy.
Very, very busy.
Very busy.
Very busy. But we're getting ready for Community Day, which is going to be held on July 9th at Lincoln Park from 2:30 to 4:30. You will hear more details about it later. Thank you.
Anybody got any questions for Ms. Finch? Thank you.
Thank you.
Puts us to item number 12, Information Technology. Agnell De Silva, Administrator. 12A is a resolution authorizing the purchase of Dell server for GIS from fiscal year 2023-2024 General Fund, Information Technology Division, number 20 budget. I will make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
We have a second. Is there any questions on this resolution? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Burt.
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
York. Pickering. Strebing.
Yes.
5 yes.
5 yes, thank you. Puts us to 12B. We have a resolution authorizing the purchase of firewalls from fiscal year 2023-2024 General Fund, Information Technology Division, budget number 20. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
I have a second. Is there any questions on 12B's resolution? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
York. Pickering. Burt.
Yes.
Strebing.
Yes.
5 yes.
5 yes, thank you. 12C is a resolution authorizing the renewal of Tanium software from the General Fund Information Technology Division, budget number 20. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
We have a second. Is there any questions on 12C? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Teague.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
York. Pickering. Burt.
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Strebing.
Yes.
5 yes.
5 yes, thank you. Puts us to 12D, items of information, Agnell, and his monthly status report.
Thank you, Chairman. You should have all received the monthly status report as well as the reorg chart and the job descriptions that we worked on. So I believe we'll be bringing an ordinance next for the full council for your approval. So are there any questions on those? I'll be happy to answer.
We have any questions for Agnell?
The thing you mentioned about the jobs, that's something that's coming, or did you email that to us?
I emailed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look for it.
And I believe it's in the Dropbox as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Agnell, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. That's all I have.
Item number 13, legal, James L. Simon Corporation Counsel, items of information and your statistical report.
You all have the statistical report for year-to-date as well as for March regarding cases pending. What's going on in the legal division is we are in the process of looking to fill 2 environmental code inspector positions. We have completed our interviews this afternoon. We had an amazing number of applicants for the position, and I think right now we're going through checking out references, and I believe we have 2 candidates, and I'm hoping that we can extend some offers by the end of the week and get them on as quickly as they can. Obviously, the 4th inspector couldn't start until after the 1st of May, but I think we'll be able to bring inspectors on, right after the 1st of May. We're going to have to equip them. Agnell and I have talked about legal department purchasing 4 new tablets for them to use out on their activities, day-to-day inspection of their respective areas and sectors. And I think the tablets are about 5 years old? Yeah. 5, 6 years old. So it's time, We are also getting very close to training on the new software that we will be shifting to, and we hope by midsummer or late summer to have the new software up, which will facilitate inspections and will make rental registration much easier than what it has been for both our staff and for property owners, because if they choose to, and we hope everyone does, it can all be done online. Thank you.
Is there any questions for Mr. Simon?
Chairman, I didn't think about this until as we were speaking about the need for iPads. we'll need a vehicle for that fourth inspector too, and that's probably not, do we have that in, I don't think we have that in CIP, do we?
We've begun exploring vehicles with Dave Rui, and he's working on it. And hopefully we'll have it ready when an inspector joins. We don't need it immediately because training will probably stagger the hiring a bit, but training, they'll be traveling with our existing inspectors in their vehicles. But we're working on it.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
I have a question for the corporate counsel. Earlier tonight it was said that
Could you get closer to your mic, please?
it's unusual if people want to hear me louder.
Yeah.
We had a comment earlier in the meeting that whether or not a committee recommends or rejects a motion, it goes to the full council. I know I've had that discussion with the corporate counsel. There's actually nothing in the city ordinance that says a defeated motion goes to the full city council. It says a recommendation does. So what if it doesn't pass, it really doesn't go anywhere, does it?
The way I interpret your rules in the chapter concerning the council, committees can vote to recommend something to the council, and committees can recommend that the council consider something without affirmative. But I think per our discussion, I think your viewpoint is correct that committee items don't automatically go onto the council, only if they're moved by the committee, either pursuant to a recommendation to adopt or at least for consideration.
So if it was rejected, they'd have to make a motion to consider it anyway.
Well, it depends on what the rejection motion says. The committee can recommend consideration and as well as recommend the council reject the matter that they're considering. But if the language isn't there, if it's just a simple rejection, as I read the ordinance, it does not go on to city council.
Either way, if it's rejected or if it's accepted, it goes with a recommendation or without a recommendation is how it's always proceeded in our chambers.
And we usually bring that up
That may be, but that's not what the ordinance says. However, there's a provision in the ordinance that says if they don't follow strict procedure, that doesn't invalidate whatever the city council does in the end. But the ordinance actually says it would be either a recommendation to go to the council or approval, recommending approval.
It says recommendation. It doesn't say recommendation to go to the council, does it, Jim? Though it says recommendation, right? So a recommendation can be either way, that we recommend that they vote against it or they recommend that they vote for it.
We've also had it where we've taken it to full council and said with no recommendation from the group previous.
Absolutely, you can you can ask the council to consider it without a recommendation and all. I'm just going by what my interpretation of the ordinance. Now, obviously, given practice, it's not going to invalidate whatever happens at the council level because the committee does not have authority to take action, formal action on a matter. Only the council has the authority to do that. So either way, it could go either way, but the ordinance, that's how I interpret what it says.
Any other questions for Mr. Simon?
What's
Yes.
the ordinance number?
I don't have it in front of me. It's in chapter, I believe it's 31. And I don't have it. I could try to find it real quickly while we move on, and not that I want to interrupt the next speaker.
In the memo response that you provided to Vice Mayor, it said it was inconclusive as to whether or not it did advise or did not advise. So I'm a bit confused.
I'm gonna try and find it real quick.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. Item, when you get it, just holler, wave, or something. Police Chris Yates, Police Chief. We have items of information and March 2023 offense data. Chief?
Yeah, looking at the data, I don't have I don't know where the annual or quarter is.
I'm not sure.
Thought it was on there, but guess not. Anyway, looking at it,
Chief, can you move your mic over in front of you? Thank you.
We've increased some areas, we've decreased in others. Overall, we had a reduction in the main ones that we're tracking and reporting to committee and council, down to 227 from that 262 the previous year during March of 22. So some improvements, but others I'm not real thrilled about. Again, it's comparing a month from one year to the next. So it's nothing to get upset or excited about either way. But does anybody have any questions on those numbers?
Any questions for the chief?
Yes, Chief, what's the major crimes we're facing here in Danville?
I'm sorry. The major ones that it just matters what perspective. Obviously, the aggravated battery, the violent crimes, gun crimes, shots fired, obviously homicide, and such as that. What we list and what I report to you every month is assault, battery, total aggravated battery with injury or with a weapon, total robbery, armed robbery, residential burglary, other burglaries, sexual assault, shots fired, theft over, criminal damage, and domestic battery.
Are we finding these in certain locations or specific locations here in the city?
Matters which ones you're talking about. Okay, like domestic battery, we've got domestic batteries north, south, east, and west. Okay. That's a concern. That's something I've brought up several times at committee and just about every group I'm volunteering with social services. We're having I'd say it's predominantly southeast part of town. If you want to, location.
Okay.
We're not seeing it random. I'll just put it that way.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any other questions for the chief? Go ahead.
Could we get year-to-date comparisons?
Yeah, usually I have it. I don't know. There's 140 some pages in this, and I can't find it. So I'm not sure where it's at. I can send it to you, though.
That's fine.
Yeah, could you send it to everybody before next week?
I don't know. I put it on the shared drive, I thought, but I may not have.
The number that sticks out to me, which is actually a good number, is that shots fired comparison is down significantly.
Yes, they are.
But what I would love to see is year-to-date shots fired comparison.
They're down.
Okay.
Yeah, they're down. I don't know why I don't have it on here.
You talking about the 3-year trend,
Yeah.
Chief?
What page is that
It's in
on?
the packet. I just had the hard copy here. Did you want to?
I can't find it. Is it 14A1?
But the 3-year trend, is that comparison month to month, or is it year-to-date?
No, what I'm looking at, 14A1, that's a 3-year trend, March to March.
Right.
To March.
Right.
To where you want to see
January,
quarters.
yes.
Okay, January to March.
Yes.
And such. I usually have it. I don't have it here.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Okay.
So I'll send it to you, though.
Okay.
Any other questions for the chief? Thank you, Chief Yates.
Comment?
No, go ahead.
Okay. We have something that's going on with House Bill 0900, okay? And that is something that I discussed with Senator Bennett, I think last year, early last year, 2022. And he is wanting to help us provide different funding for violence prevention as well as community, police community relations and community education through law enforcement. And it's gotten caught up several times. However, it looks like it may be going through. I don't talk about it a lot because there's a lot of good things that we can do with it. But if it doesn't happen, I don't want any disappointment either. And it's not like any other grant or anything else I've dealt with before. This is money that was legislated by the state for our area, and then I just don't understand the process because it's unfamiliar with what we're dealing with. However, I will have everything together. I'd like to bring it to full council, and but it's a significant amount of money that we can provide for different things within both capital purchases to help us with violence prevention, as well as things that we can do as far as police community relations and education.
I say bring it.
Anybody have any questions on it?
Just to be clear, when Chief says things have been hung up, basically DCO has promised out a lot of money to a lot of entities, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. It was one of the last things that Senator Bennett fought for to make sure that we happened, was to get this $1 million in resources for our community. And essentially in bureaucracy, it's been caught up and taking forever. So it's not anything that Chief or Ashland or we have done to slow this down. It's simply what lies with the state agency, but hopefully we'll receive it, because that's something that Senator Bennett worked hard to make sure that we received. And I know that I saw Betty Seidel in the audience earlier. I just want to thank you, Miss Betty, for all the help that you've been in making this happen. It wouldn't happen without you. Also, we want to thank our new Senator Faraci, because he has been very aggressive in making sure that we get the resources that were promised to us. So thank you to that legislative team for helping us.
Yes, thank you.
I had a call with the grant manager this morning, and it's a process, and but it's promising. And if it is awarded and we get that grant award, we want to make sure and have everything ready, because there's going to be a very strict timeline. For instance, the state budget ends January 30th.
June 30th.
June 30th.
Or I'm sorry, June 30th.
Yes.
So I don't know, we don't know anything. There's nothing guaranteed as far as extensions, but me and my team we've got a plan on dealing with it, but we have to be responsible as well. That's been in the works for about 5-6 months. Any questions on that?
If I could add on to that, if the committee says that Chief can take this resolution to the next council meeting, there'll actually be 2 resolutions, because if you say, yes, vote on the resolution to accept the grant, I have to be able to track the grant in our financial system, so that would involve creating a new fund. So you would receive 2 resolutions, one from him to accept the award and one from me to be able to track that award. So just know that if you recommend to take it to council, you'll be saying yes to two resolutions, because we don't want to have to wait on me to come back and get a new fund the next month to be able to track it. So,
Does anybody have any problem with 2 resolutions?
No.
Because it's like a lot of other things. When they get the money, you're going to have to, and they're going to have to be diligent on where the nickels and dimes are going quick. So,
And just to let you know, what will come to council will be a list of $1 million in expenditures that's been laid out. So you'll know where it's going. So it's not like I'm going to be able to come to you and say, okay, now we're going to go with this resolution. So I'll give you a resolution with all the amounts and all the items. Obviously, there may be a need for a grant adjustment notification, but if that happens, then we can come back. But honestly, that's only going to happen if there's an extension. Other news? Did you, Jim? I'm sorry.
You finish up.
Okay, let me finish real quick. It should only take me about a half hour, 45. No, I'm just kidding. Just to give everybody, and I want to mention this because there was a good partnership with District 118, Public Works, the guys from the sign shop. They really kicked tail on this one. But we put up radar speed signs, 7 of them in total, in our school zones. We got a good audience here, so if everybody could just slow down in our school speed zones, man, it's our kids. When we're talking about kids' lives, that's a good place to start. Also, we have 4 police officers at the academy. They graduate Thursday. We're anxious to get them into our field training program so we can get them ready for the street. We're going to be swearing in 3 more officers on May 3rd. And we're right now pushing a recruiting push for additional hires for the September class. See a lot of young men in the back of the room. Hey.
And women.
Also, and that class starts in September. So that's all I have. I won't keep you anymore.
Yes, go
One
ahead.
question.
Yes, go ahead.
Chief, do those
Women. I'm sorry.
Chief, do those radar, are they capturing any data?
Yes. Okay. I don't want to go into this because I didn't want you guys to hurry me up. But anyway, no, they do catch data. So we can tell how many cars travel past that sign. We can tell what peak hours they're speeding. We can tell what speeds they're going at and what peak times they're driving the fastest. We can tell Public Works how fast they're how many cars pass that roadway. So it's going to be multi-purpose. It's Bluetooth. We can drive by it, download it on our car. We can use it for strategic planning, for traffic enforcement. We will be putting up more with some of this funding, and we'll be putting them in more than just speed zones. It's funny, the feedback I've gotten, and I'm not a person for the cameras, and then all of a sudden you get a ticket. That's not what these are. Okay. These give us, it's a data tool and it's an informational device letting you know, hey, you're speeding, slow it down. It'll even say slow down with exclamation mark. And then if you're going the speed limit, it'll say thank you. Okay? So I'm hoping it says thank you a lot more than slow down, but we are also having a lot of enforcement in that area. And I told our officers, zero tolerance there. It's a school zone. We got a sign before the school zone. If that's not enough, I'd rather everybody get a warning. We don't do traffic citations for anything other than the reduction of traffic crashes and pedestrian injuries. So if we can have the cooperation from our community, that'd be real good.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Chief. Mr. Simon.
What I'm looking at is section 31.35, paren B, paren 6. And it says the business of each oversight committee shall include, and then there are a number of enumerated items, including review and recommending ordinances and resolutions for approval of the city council. That's how I've come up with my interpretation. But as I said, if we do something slightly different, it's not going to in any way invalidate something that is sent to the city council, because there's another provision in the ordinances that recognizes this is a procedural thing and not something substantive. And so, as I say, an ordinance will not be invalidated, or a resolution or a motion.
Vice Mayor, did that
Yes, thank you.
take care of everything? Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Simon. Puts us to item number 15. We have some public work stuff in front of us because of the time of the year it is, and cleaning up before we have a new fiscal year starts. So 15A, we have a resolution authorizing the I couldn't get past it. Execution of a lease agreement for the city property located at 844 North Griffin Street. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please. Is there any questions on 15A?
Yes, why are we executing a lease?
This is one of the properties that we acquired for the Garfield Park project, and the individual needs a little bit more time to move out of the house. So if we're going to continue to allow them to live there for their safety and for the protection of the city, we wanted to do it officially and properly.
Why for a period not to exceed 2 years?
I'm not sure why it was so long, probably just to give us as much flexibility as possible, but I don't think that it will be that long at all. I think it will probably be 3 to 6 months in all likelihood.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on 15A? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Williams?
Yes.
York? Pickering? Burt?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Strebing?
Yes.
5 yes.
5 yes. 15B, we have a resolution approving the purchase of a heavy-duty truck and amend the general fund streets division fiscal year 2023 and fiscal year 2024 budgets. I make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on resolution 15B? Not, roll call, please.
Alderman York, Pickering, Burt,
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Streebing.
Yes.
5 yes.
Yes, thank you. Puts us to 15C. We have a resolution awarding the contract for professional services and subscription for facility asset management with Brightly Software Incorporated. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 15C? Not, roll call, please.
Alderman Pickering, Burt,
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
York, Streebing.
Yes.
5 yes.
5 yes, thank you. Puts us to 15D. We have a resolution amending the fiscal year 2023-2024 general fund, community development budget, and approving a professional service agreement for the creation of a downtown revitalization plan. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 15D? Not, roll call, please.
Alderman Burt,
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
York, Pickering, Streebing.
Yes.
5 yes.
5 yes, the motion carries. Puts us to 15E, items of information. There is?
Yeah, something real quick. I don't want to miss the chance to plug the fact that we need some seasonal auxiliaries over at Public Works. We are on the hunt for as many bodies as we can get to help, I guess, serve our community the best we can through the busy season. So, if you'd like to apply online, or you can come by City Hall or Public Works and pick up a paper application and fill it out. You can also get on Indeed, and it's posted on there as well. But I just want to make sure and mention that so that we can fill our spots.
Yes, what's the basic qualifications for those?
Basic qualifications, basically 18 or older, need to have a driver's license, and show up to work. Yeah, that's about it. Need you to be on time.
Drug test and live within 45 miles of Danville.
Yeah,
too.
there you
All
go.
of them.
There you go.
Also, Administrator, we need regular laborers as well, correct?
Correct. We do have 3 full-time openings as well, and that's posted on Indeed, and you can apply on the city website or by paper as well there.
Well, thank you very much. Item number 16. Mayor, I'm going to let you have this one.
Item 16 is an ordinance approving the addition to Chapter 142 of the Danville, Illinois Code of Ordinances requiring compliance with the federal abortion laws. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or debate on the item?
Yes.
Alderwoman Teague.
First of all, I'd like to echo what former Alderwoman Brown had to say, and thank everyone for coming out and voicing their opinions about this. This meeting typically is done a long time ago. I actually scheduled another meeting for 7:30 thinking that it was going to be a normal night, not realizing what was on the agenda. And now I'm not there. And because typically this meeting goes quickly, but we have a lot of comments tonight, and we welcome those comments. We invite everyone to comment, and I hope that you all care enough about many other issues going on in the city of Danville and come back regularly. I have questions about this from a practical view. One of the questions is, if this were passed, how would we actually enforce it? Especially considering, at least in terms of who would be charged with enforcement, I'm assuming it would not be code inspectors. And so, because code inspectors have their hands full with toters and grass and other things that get covered by code inspection. So from a practical perspective, I do really question, how would this go about being enforced?
It would be like any other ordinance violation. Our law enforcement would issue a citation.
Law enforcement being city police?
That's correct.
Okay. And then how would city police know that the ordinance had been broken?
I don't know with certainty.
Because I know at least as it relates to other ordinances that are not state law but city ordinances that, you know, are violations. Things, for example, I remember contacting Chief because someone in my ward contacted me about some trailer being illegally parked on the street or something of that nature. That's the type of thing you can see and observe, so police can go and easily enforce that. I'm not seeing any practical way for police to actually go and enforce this. So just from the perspective of, and this has nothing to do with whether a person is pro-life or pro-choice, or even the legality of it. I'm just looking at, okay, well, I'm just trying to make sense of it. Okay, we're going to enforce this. There's going to be a citation and a $1,500 fine and all of these things, but who are we actually enforcing against, and how are we actually going to enforce that? And so I'm not seeing any provision for what we do here if this does go on our books. Everything else that we have on our books, there's provision for how that gets enforced and who actually enforces it.
Actually, our ordinances don't say, for example, that if there is a speeding ticket that it's going to be issued by the police, or everything is not spelled out explicitly.
But it's still a
who will do
matter
the
of law,
enforcement.
though,
That's correct.
that if the police, because it doesn't have to be city police for someone to be speeding, right? State police can issue tickets in our jurisdiction.
Right.
And at the end of the day, the law is the law, and it says if a person is going 45 and a 30 and they're caught going 45 and a 30, they're observed going 45 and a 30 by police of whatever authority, then they can be issued a citation.
It's probably the same way here. If someone is caught sending or receiving abortion implements.
Well, the way that it's written, though, it's only sending and not necessarily receiving, correct? Because it's not enforceable against the mother or any woman who receives it. It's only enforceable, at least that's my interpretation of how it's written, that it's only enforceable on the sending side, unless the person receiving is not the person who's actually taking the medication.
That's correct.
Right.
That is correct.
The institution that would be receiving it would be the recipient, not the mother.
So are we checking mail?
I think it would be like witnesses.
It would be the same thing as.
For me, this is a practical question. I'm just asking, so these are the questions that I had as I read
We
it.
often don't observe crimes, but we often are made aware of them and receive evidence of such. And though they're prosecuted, I mean, there's almost no murder that's ever witnessed. However, we are often able to prosecute the crime because of other evidence that exists. And I would take it that this would be a similar approach. Go ahead. And please keep your decorum, ladies. You're our guests.
Okay, just let's take the topic out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and city ordinances are non-criminal. It's a non-criminal process. What happens is, say, we're dealing with, pick your ordinance. It's not something that we would see. We would investigate. Okay, and I'm not talking about abortions or anything else. I'm just saying pick your ordinance. Those can come with a complainant, okay, where a complainant actually signs as the complainant or witness, and then we're made aware of it. It's a ticket-only citation. It's not it's a non-criminal offense. That gets forwarded to the city legal department, and there's a civil hearing, like loud noise,
Okay.
The process is all similar. Obviously, this is much more complex.
Right.
And I'm just saying any ordinance, that's how that is.
Okay.
And for the record, no, we will not be going through anyone's mail or anything ridiculous like that. I mean, come on, let's have some common sense here.
Okay. That answers that question. I think my biggest concern as it relates to the impact of this to the city of Danville and the taxpayers of Danville, is that we would be, if we pass this as, and I'll echo something that Alderwoman Brown said, because she said she is pro-life, but against this because it puts the city of Danville in a position where we open ourselves up to tremendous financial risk and liability. And it's my understanding from our own insurance company that unlike other lawsuits that we may have been involved in which the insurance company may have paid for the legal expenses, they have already said that they would not on this. And considering the legal ramifications of this and the lawsuits that would most certainly come, my thought process is putting this on the books would be irresponsible of us because of the risk that it puts us in. I mean, when I first joined this council just 2 years ago, we were talking about whether or not we could come up with $3 million for the pool. And now, based on some of the, and if it had not been for ARPA, we wouldn't be doing the pool. And then based on some of the,
We would likely be doing the pool, but just no slides and not the extras. It'd be the bare minimum to get a pool open. Again, it just wouldn't be nice like we planned to be.
maybe not. It depends on how the vote would have gone down. It depends on how the vote would have gone down. I believe that ARPA money made it a very easy vote because we had extra money that we were not expecting. I can't necessarily say that everybody would have been in support of the pool, but that's neither here nor there. My point is that I've only been on the council for 2 years, and in that a period of time, we were talking about the pool, a year or two ago, and $3 million seemed like a lot of money. Now we're putting ourselves in a position where, depending on how far the case could go, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars, possibly based on the estimation that came internally up to $1 million to defend this. And in a place where we're already, we're better than we've been in a long time, thanks to the stewardship of the mayor and city staff, but it's taken us a long time to get here. So in my estimation, you put that against other financial responsibilities like the pension debt and all of these other things, it just doesn't make sense to put ourselves in this position when we know that this isn't like the other states that have other laws on their books. This is Illinois. And we're almost guaranteeing ourselves a response, possibly most certainly from the ACLU, as was evidenced by the email that was sent, possibly from the Attorney General's office, and whomever else. So regardless of how I feel about the issue, to me, it's not even about that. I'm a person who represents the taxpayers of Danville. I am a taxpayer of Danville. And based on that, I would vote against this for that reason. It is fiscally irresponsible. That's my statement on it.
Thank you, Alderwoman Teague. Anyone else? Alderman Burt.
I find that position challenging.
Alderman, if you could please lower your microphone so we could hear you. Thank you.
There have been previous realities in this country that were...
Alderman, I'm sorry. You might have to bend it down. There you go. Thank you.
That better?
Yes.
Try to save you my clearing in my throat. There have been previous heinous realities in this country that needed adjusted. And there were financial reasons then to not cure those ills. And they were even accurate in their description of the financial impact. But the heinousness is what needs to be focused on. There were other remarks made, and this is obviously a highly polarizing issue. If, we care this much about this, then we should do X. It's a straw man argument because it's to imply that we don't care about those things. There's a lot that needs cured, a lot that needs to be done. We talk about that basically every city council. The showing today, and even the remarks made by others, we don't usually get this crowd. It's only super hot button issues. There's not community participation until someone has someone on their doorstep, their stoop, of the things that matter to them. There's a lot that this city needs. We need everyone involved to this degree. And I would say that that comment, not yours, the one about if we actually cared, to be evident on both sides all the time. We have, I think, one organization in this town that supports those who don't go the abortion route, Women's Care Clinic. They need a lot more of our support. We need a lot more organizations like them. I'm not a fan of just abject ban, but it is a piece of a larger problem, piece of a larger solution to a big problem. I would personally like more information on the legal side of this, if this is even, I don't have clarity on if this is even a legal action that we can take. Not whether or not it would win or lose in litigation, but whether or not it's even legal. I would like clarity on that front.
Yes.
I'll just address one comment. The way we test the legality of an ordinance, a statute, or some other conduct, in this country is, unfortunately, through litigation. When a judge tells us something is legal or illegal, the person who does not win in this country has a right to an appeal. The appeal cannot be denied. They take it up to an appellate court, and the matter is argued before the appellate court. And the panel of judges, depending on what state you're in Illinois, it's typically 3 judges and a panel, make a decision. The individual who still feels that, or even if it's reversed, somebody's going to lose, they do not have a right to have the Illinois Supreme Court, just like the U.S. Supreme Court, to take a matter. They can apply to that court, and then that court will decide whether or not to take a matter. In certain instances, cases can go from the Illinois Supreme Court up to the United States Supreme Court. And again, it's up to that court to decide whether to take the matter. Until a court rules on a matter, and whatever appeal process takes place, however high it goes, renders an ultimate determination whether the subject matter under consideration is legal. Until we have a court determination, we do not know whether it's, quote, legal. So what are we left with? We are left at looking at the statutes that are relevant to the issue. In this case, Illinois law, the Comstock Act, the United States Constitution, and U.S. Supreme Court law. But we don't know what a judge ultimately will decide on a case. We've been surprised at times, and we've, as lawyers, and we are surprised when we predict the right outcome. But the finality is what determines whether something in fact is legal. We as lawyers do the research and try to understand where we think a court would go, and then advise our clients as such. And I've done that in this case, and if anyone has questions on at least what I have found over weeks of research on this issue, I can share it. But it's based on application of statutes and cases and how courts have ruled.
Thank you, Council. Alderman Williams, Alderman Ludwig, do you all have any comments? No. Alderman Ludwig, do you have any comments? Okay. Any further discussion or debate?
I have
would
one.
just-
Oh,
Go ahead.
O'Kane has a
Alderman
comment.
O'Kane, sorry.
Can you sit up here, please?
I can say I am pro-abortion, or pro-life, I'm sorry, but this issue to me, if we prove it, I still don't see in my eyes that this will stop a abortion clinic or stop this clinic at all. And with the recent laws that the Supreme Court has pushed back to the states during Roe versus Wade and stuff, it looks like each state has their own idea of what's going on. I think we at least need to talk to the Attorney General and see if he can give us a ruling on this. I think we need to figure out if this is going to stop this abortion clinic or if it's just a piece of paper that the state's going to tell them they can ignore. And before we vote and cause other issues, I think you need to get these answers.
I think
My only comment.
I think you already know the answers to this. I'm sure that our Attorney General, his job is to enforce the laws of the state of Illinois. The laws of the state of Illinois say that you have a constitutional right to an abortion, and so he will. And I can't imagine a scenario where Mr. Raoul would not advise that this is illegal according to state law. I truly can't. However, what I think that we have to consider is the totality of the law, and is it just the state law or the federal law that we're considering? And the federal law under the Comstock Act is quite clear, I believe, about this matter, and so it's a matter of us juxtaposing the two.
The Supreme Court did throw it back to the states.
Just last week.
That was about the FDA ruling about I can't remember, I can't pronounce it. I don't know how to the word, but one of the drugs. Period. And the FDA approval of that drug. That was not about this particular act in the Comstock Act. It was something very separate.
That's part of what you're wanting us to vote on.
No, it's not.
You're wanting us to say that you can't use the pill.
But no, it doesn't. Actually, it doesn't say that at all. It only says that you cannot mail or ship anything that would be used for an abortion. It does not say that someone cannot use it.
And are you saying that this will absolutely stop the clinic on Logan Street?
I don't think it will absolutely stop anything. They can continue to move forward. For example, as Corporation Counsel Simon mentioned, this could be, it's going to be at every level there will be a judge or a panel of judges that will say whether or not it's legal. So essentially what I would expect is that the district, that we could get a court ruling that would put a stay on our order, meaning that it's not effective until that we can't put it into effect until there is a final ruling. So does it stop it? No. In the end, it provides a means so that they could not provide abortions there, though. Alderwoman, Corporation Counsel, and then I'll call on you, Alderman.
A lot of people believe that federal law is the supreme law of the land. That thought process is not accurate. What is accurate is the U.S. Constitution in its entirety is often called the supreme law of the land, not federal statutes, but the Supreme Court. We have something in the Supreme Court called the 10th Amendment, and it basically says, or it exactly says, the powers not delegated to the U.S. by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states or the people. In other words, if the Constitution doesn't address something, then it's left to the states. When you consider the Dobbs decision, which recently came out, the U.S. Supreme Court held or reversed Roe v. Wade on the grounds that they did not believe that the Constitution created a right of privacy when it comes to abortion. And what the Dobbs decision said, that essentially that the issue of abortion is left to the several states. And we have seen states react to that decision in different ways, passing pro-life legislation, pro-choice legislation, what have you. There have been references made tonight about the Comstock Act. The Comstock Act has been addressed a number of times by federal courts, the Department of Justice, the United States Postal Service, in a number of ways starting in the 1930s. As the Department of Justice recently stated in a December opinion issued to the United States Postal Service, the Comstock Act on this issue, abortion as well as contraception, has indicated that it will not be read literally. It will be interpreted to mean that the Comstock Act would apply if the resulting conduct is illegal. As others have presented in tonight, and I don't take a side on this. I did the legal research for months. I've looked at the New Mexico, what's happening there. I've looked at what's happened in Utah, which right now are the battlegrounds, and I've researched Illinois law, and it actually goes beyond the Reproductive Health Act that people have referenced, pro or con, but there are other statutes that apply. I won't go over them because, we're not here in law school. But the way the courts and the DOJ and the United States Postal Service, and the reason I bring the Postal Service, they're the ones that obviously deliver the mail, basically say if what's happening is illegal, then the Comstock Act applies. Dobbs has left the decision of what's illegal and or legal on abortion to the states, and Illinois has various laws that not only protect an individual's right to pursue reproductive health care on their own terms, whether to carry to term or not carry to term. There's also a recent statute in January that was passed that protects providers of abortion. And the way, among other things, the way it protects providers of abortion is it incorporates the Reproductive Health Act, and has been mentioned, there is what we call a home rule preemption. Danville is a home rule municipality, which means absent a home rule preemption in a statute, Danville can take many of the same actions that the state can take, unless a statute has one of these home rule preemption provisions. And the Reproductive Health Act has that, and then the other legislation that's been passed that's incorporated that act has also incorporated the home rule preemption. There are some criminal statutes that have been amended to take out the performance of abortion as homicide, murder, there are about 4 statutes, battery, assault, etc. As I say, there are about 5 or 6 statutes that are on the books that are kind of based around the Reproductive Health Act. A lot of them came into effect in January.
Alderwoman Teague.
So in response to what Corporate Counsel just said as it relates to home rule power limitations, I actually have text of some correspondence with the AG's office that says that highlights that home rule provision, and it says a unit of local government may not regulate an individual's ability to freely exercise the fundamental right set forth in this act in a manner more restrictive than that set forth in this act. This section is a limitation under subsection I of section 6 of Article 7 of the Illinois Constitution on the concurrent exercise by home rule units of powers and functions exercised by the state. So based on what you're saying,
that's the home rule preemption provision that you're reading.
Yes, that is the home rule preemption. So because this section is about home rule powers limitation, and then it talks about basically what can't be done. But further in this correspondence, it says, it is our view that if such an ordinance was passed and subsequently challenged, the ordinance will be held unenforceable with the city of Danville incurring significant legal expenses. So that is the basis by which I'm saying we shouldn't do this, because it's unenforceable, and for us to do this would basically be throwing money away, because the Illinois law is clear. If the Illinois law wasn't clear, then I'd say yes, that it makes sense to go down this path, and whatever comes of the law is what comes of the law, and whatever side you decide to, I'm 1 vote out of 14. But the Illinois law is clear.
Well, that's the one thing I want clarity on, actually, is he was saying that you won't know until the finality, which could go beyond potentially to the Supreme Court level.
And my response to that is, are we planning to donate $1 million to find out? Is it worth $1 million to find out?
It's worth $1 million to win.
And if we lose?
Alderwoman Ludwig or Williams, either. Do you have anything after?
And one other thing that I want to say on this topic, and I appreciate everybody's opinion and I appreciate everybody's religious stance. I am a woman who has never faced the decision, thankfully, about whether or not I was going to need to have an abortion. But I have been in a situation before where I thought that I might have to consider it. And so it is a very, very difficult decision for any woman to face. However, one of the reasons, I'm going to pivot here, one of the reasons why I joined this council is because a few years ago, back when our shots fired numbers were much higher, and when there were a number of homicides, when we had the highest number of homicides in our city, I counted where they were, and they all were in my ward. And as much as we want to protect life, we should be protecting life, and we should be protecting all lives, not just the life of the unborn, but the lives of the people who are actually here. And I would love to see this type of response for any time that there is a homicide in our city, because before I joined this council, a man got shot across the street from me in the middle of, that was at night, but in the middle of the day while my mother was sitting in her dining room, a man walking down East English ducked behind a fence. My mother could see him, and someone came shooting at him at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I've heard shots fired in my neighborhood in the middle of the afternoon. And so as much as I see this, and I love this, and the fact that you all are here, I would hope that you come back here every single time that there are shots fired in this city and somebody dies.
Mr. Mayor, do you Alderwoman, I apologize. I apologize, but there's no comments from the audience at this time, Pastor. I apologize. Yes, Alderwoman Ludwig.
I just must say that this is not settled law. So what we've been hearing from the AG's department is just recommendations. And this is a conflict between federal law and state law. And if it does need to be taken up, that will have to be adjudicated all the way up the ladder to make that determination. So recommendations are not settled law.
I would reiterate what Alderwoman Teague said. I wish that people cared. You know, when I became an alderman, it was in 2009, and I used to think, oh, people will tell you what they want, they will tell you what they think. And 99% of the time, we hear nothing from anyone about anything. So it is good to see so many people here, whether you support it or whether you support this ordinance or whether you don't. And again, I would just say ditto to what she said. We absolutely need to become more involved in all the positive and proactive things that are coming on, and also be there when there are negative things that are happening in our city. I would also like to reiterate a point that Alderwoman Ludwig just made, is that this is not settled law when you compare state to federal law, and I think that's what the question that has to be answered. This is, the state will say no, that it's a state constitutional matter, that the Constitution already says it, and that's that. I think that the federal Supreme Court might say something different. Yes, Alderman.
Sort of a self-admonishment. The reaction that I have to this, I have unfortunately been sleepy to this issue myself. And those who are in attendance today that are pro-life, and I mean, obviously there's two sides who've shown up today. You've served in your congregations and in your churches. I've lived in Danville since 2013, not very long, but I know there's some relationship between churches, but the amount of congregation we have and congregation dollars, I feel like there's plenty of resources both in manpower and money to provide. This is beyond the ban conversation, the abortion conversation. Like I said earlier, this is a potential solution. It doesn't fix the actual problem. Most people need help. And the more that we keep to our own congregations and our own buildings, the easier it is to become more and more isolated. These people are disenfranchised for that reason, partly why. I would invite the pro-lifers here, I count myself among you, to be more active in reaching beyond your walls. I mentioned the Women's Care Clinic earlier. There's just one that I know of. I wish we had 15 more. I'm somewhat aware of their funding, and I feel like it's pathetically small compared to the amount of money that I know that passes through Danville, and especially its churches. So beyond tonight, people can feel self-congratulatory about their stance, but I would invite you on a daily basis to take, perhaps not aggressive, but if you feel so inclined, but at least active, a less passive stance. If you're saying that this is such a heinous thing, that babies are not being given the chance of life, don't make the same failure I made about being sleepy about this in between such events as this. So that's all.
Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Project Success, Laura Lee Fellowship House. There are many, many places that need volunteers desperately. You can go in and read. You can go in and volunteer. So again, as multiple aldermen have now said, especially if you're pro-life, let's make sure that we do a lot more to take care of life after it's here than what we do just to fight to get it here. I do want to reiterate, to mention something that I think only has been mentioned by the audience in passing, is that we do have a letter of support from Mr. Mitchell, who was a clerk for Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, that his firm would defend us if we take up this cause. So I think that that's something for us to make sure we consider as well. And I just would add in finality that I hope that you will support this. I understand the concerns on all sides.
Is that letter?
I would ask him to have it notarized by our next meeting.
That would be critical.
Yes. Any further discussion or debate? Yes.
If you're going to reach out to council, your request should include whether he or his foundation, whatever backing he has, is willing to pay Danville's costs, the other side's costs, let's say the ACLU or some other organization, or the Attorney General, it would be the ACLU, whether their attorney's costs, he'll pay that, and then the damages that will be caused if a plaintiff, or I can't say a plaintiff, it depends on who does the suing and all, because if you're considering this clinic, as I understand it, they've purchased a building. I have no confirmation of that. They will renovate it, they will staff it, they'll equip it, and they will expect to generate profits. They're in a business. And I could see, and my research has indicated that in legal fees on both sides, I think we could see $4 million worth of fees if it goes up to and is accepted by the U.S. Supreme Court, as well as the damages, which I can't calculate. I don't know what the profits of this clinic can, in the eyes of the law, be estimated.
Preparation Council, we would of course rely on your expertise in these areas to request all of such from said council. Any further discussion or debate? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Alderman Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague?
No.
Williams?
Yes.
York? Pickering? Burt?
Yes.
Streebing? 3 yes.
By a vote of 3-1, the council it moves forward to council with a recommendation. Do not have a need for closed session. Are there any items of information for the good of the cause? On a happier note for all of us, I would invite you all out to Suites in the Streets next Friday from 5 to 8. That will also include the renaming of our Vermilion County Administration Building for Joseph Cannon, former Speaker of the House. Having satisfied the agenda, is there a motion to adjourn? Yes, and the Neighborhood Association meeting at 8:30 this Sunday at Harrison Park as well. This Saturday, yes, thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or debate? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Get some overtime and FICO versions. Do I need to?
Yeah, I was looking at the POs that Heidi's put in today. There's one that's like a big one for 7,200 or something for AEC. Can you go ahead and submit an LIT to cover all your shortages before we approve that? Because that's a big